Hey there, I'm Marty Sakata, host of Resilient Alpha. You might know me from the Ivy Family Office Network, almost 3 decades of family offices and big shots collaborating on alternative investments, strategy, and good causes. That's the fuel for this podcast. Why Resilient Alpha? Simple. Why do some funds and managers crush it and others crash? We're cracking that code, redefining alpha, and bringing top brains to unpack asset classes and hot alpha ideas full throttle. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Today, Elizabeth Chills-Forchick will be our co-host. She's a scientist turned investor whose career spans the nuts and bolts of drug discovery, regulatory clinical trials, and venture capital. Elizabeth is the founder and managing partner at Meta Ventures, an early-stage healthcare VC with a one-of-a-kind funding vehicle. She's managed investment portfolios of enviable IRR and MOIC results and collaborates with partners at the top of their games to scout and invest in the alphas of the healthcare startup world. Elizabeth's at the forefront of the industry, and she'll lead the discussion with our guest today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Resilient Alpha podcast. This is Elizabeth Cho-Fertique, and today we will be speaking with Dr. Ralph Kuechle, a clinical psychologist licensed in California. Dr. Kuechle is the CEO and founder of Looper Room, which is a digital mental health technology company. Its focus is to help patients between their therapy sessions so they could have the bolstered help to have optimal mental health support. Looper Room also has an AI feature designed by clinicians and can only be prescribed by clinicians, allowing for important safeguard rails, which we'll touch on more during our chat. Dr. Kuechle's expertise is in psychotherapy, psychological assessment, and crisis intervention. Here's more of my interview with Dr. Kuechle.
The content here is for informational purposes only, should not be taken as legal, business, tax, or investment advice, or be used to evaluate any investment or security, and is not directed at any investors or potential investors in any featured fund or deals on this video.
Welcome to Resilient Alpha, where we engage with some of the most innovative minds in business, finance, medicine, and a host of other sectors. Today, we're excited to have Dr. Ralph Kuechle here. He's a clinical psychologist licensed in California. His areas of expertise are psychotherapy, psychological assessment, and crisis intervention. But Dr. Kuechle is here today as a founder and CEO of Looper Room, a business that he began. This is an AI-driven mental health platform that's become a tool for clinicians and patients to bridge the time between therapy sessions. So that's quite the novelty here. So welcome, Ralph. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So let's kick this off with just the start of all this. How did you come across the idea of Looper Room and decide to launch the venture?
Well, I wanted a tool for myself and my patients that we could use between the therapy sessions for data collection, treatment planning, measurement of treatment outcomes and treatment progress over time, and clinical support for my patients in between those therapy sessions.
It just sounds very intuitive that having a few more touch points between sessions would make sense. We all think about reaching out to our moms or dads or maybe therapists, between when we're going through a crisis. So why not therapists too? Hasn't anyone done this before? I'm so surprised.
Not to my knowledge. I'm not aware of any other company who has done this in the past or is currently doing it. We're the only ones who are in a unique space there. The reason for this, I think, was possibly the lack of technology. Until recently, AI wasn't really widely used. I've started to look into AI about 7 years ago, back in 2018, and followed it early on by looking at the research and new developments. But AI hasn't really been implemented and widely used until about 2 years ago. And that's one reason. The other reason is that, especially in the mental health space, progress goes slow. It's kind of interesting that we help people to deal with change, and we're sometimes the worst at it. So,
Yeah. Point.
And when you look at the managed healthcare field, everything goes slower. And so when you develop something like we have, the Loop platform, it just takes time. And that's why we're the only ones in that space right now.
Okay. All right. Now that technology is around, tell us what's to prevent a competitor to encroach on your space. I mean, do you have patents? What is your defensible moat?
There are probably some companies that will try to replicate what we do once they become aware of the value and what Looproom is doing. We have patents pending here in the United States, but also in the international markets, the most important markets. We have the patents pending. We have placeholders. And here in the United States, it's a first to file system, not a first to invent system. And we would know if anyone else had done this in the past, because then we wouldn't have received our number.
Yeah. What does your patent cover? Because AI is thought of, as part of a technology play, and some of those are not always patentable. Tell us a little bit more about the patent.
So there are two things that are covered. One is the system, the setup, the backend of our application. And the second piece is the process. How is the system used? The combination of both are the patent of Looproom.
Okay. Can you explain how AI is utilized in your technology? Let's say I'm a patient and I happen to use the app because my provider explained that is part of the therapy program. I tune in and I say, this has been going on. I don't feel much better, Dr. Kuechle. How does the AI help in facilitating the in-between therapy? Tell us about that.
The most important piece in therapy is the therapeutic alliance. It's the relationship of a therapist and a patient. Clinician and therapists, or clinicians, benefit just as much as the patients from a stronger relationship, because there's more trust. And when there's more trust, the patients tend to stay in treatment longer. There's a lower attrition rate. Attrition is the premature dropout of treatment. On the other hand, and that has been a big problem, the attrition rate, high turnovers on caseloads, that has resulted in a high level of stress for the clinicians, which is also a big problem in the mental health industry, staff turnover. So someone who can't retain patients has more intakes because there are productivity requirements. And when someone has more intakes, the person is at a higher risk for burnout because there are higher levels of stress. So by having patients stay in treatment longer, the patients benefit. There's an increased symptom reduction. Treatment is more effective. They stay longer in treatment and they benefit more from treatment. At the same time, the caseload for the clinician is more stable. There are fewer intakes. So that clinician will stay also longer, because a big problem for the managed healthcare industry is staff turnover. I've been in managed healthcare until 2019 when I left and focused more on Looproom. I was in managed healthcare as a program director and mental health services supervisor for a managed healthcare organization. And I was there for 17 years. And I took the numbers. I kept track of all the clinicians that came through my program. And guess what the average length of stay was for a clinician?
I don't know.
8 months.
Wow.
Let that sink in.
Yeah, that's
8 months.
tremendous.
It takes 6 months to recruit, onboard, and train a clinician until that clinician reaches the 100% productivity, capacity to produce. And then I had on average 2 more months after that
Yeah.
before the
Yeah.
person would leave, and I had to replace the clinician. So it's a huge problem in the industry.
Okay. Let's go back to this question of how the AI actually works. I'm the patient yet again, and I use the app and say, Dr. Kuechle, I really haven't been doing well. This has happened, that's happened. How does the AI speak to me or guide me until I meet you in person again? What does it do?
So there are 2 pieces to the platform. One is the clinician login, and the other one is the patient login. As a patient, first of all, you cannot have our app unless you have a therapist.
Right.
So it's integrated in the therapeutic process.
Mm-hmm.
So during your first session with your therapist or clinician, the clinician will give you an access code and you create your account.
Mm-hmm.
It's all HIPAA compliant. Once you create your account and you have access to the app, first you will do assessments
Mm-hmm.
to get a baseline for your anxiety. The form is called the G87. The same we do for depression with the PHQ-9, both valid and reliable instruments that are widely used in outpatient or mental health care in general, not just in the United States, but in the entire world. So those 2 assessments, and a third one is the Columbia Suicide Scale that also will be used for screening. They're all integrated in the app, and you do the assessments first.
Right.
Once you're done with the assessments, you have access to the chatbot. And the chatbot is a clinical chatbot that has been developed by myself and other psychologists who were part of our team in order to have an appropriate chatbot that is safe for patients to use. In addition, what makes this chatbot safe is that it's monitored by your clinician. The clinician has access to all your chats, as well as the assessment measurements over time. So look at it this way. We have created a software, an AI-driven software that sits on top of ChatGPT and controls it. It restricts it in many areas because we don't want the chatbot to go down some of these rabbit holes. And you may have heard about some horror stories that have happened when individuals with mental health issues use chatbots. So in my opinion, it's just a very important topic, and I'm sure we're going to get into this a little later, about the fact that there are no guardrails and no laws, no regulations. So Loop Room saw this early on, and we said we can't have this chatbot to just be put in the App Store or Google Play to be downloaded by just anyone. It needs to be safe. Safety is first. So our AI software sits on top of ChatGPT, controlling it, making sure the patient is safe.
Yeah.
Mainly, our chatbot is listening and validating, mimicking a therapist, talking like a therapist, and yet not replacing the therapist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's also, there's a fear when I talk to our clinicians that the AI will replace us as therapists. And that's not the case. What it really does is it enhances the therapeutic process. It makes therapy a better experience for the patient, and the work as a clinician also better for the clinician. So it's a win-win. And on top, the third party that benefits is the managed healthcare company because they keep their staff around longer, and that's huge. It's a huge budget item every year to look at finding new talent.
Yeah.
And there's only so much out there. There's a pool, and there's a shortage of staff also in the mental health
Right.
industry. So that's in a nutshell what the app does.
So you touched on a number of things that have generated some questions. Let's go through these pretty quickly so we can keep top of mind about all this. You mentioned guardrails that are available through your app, which comes to my question about competitors. I think there are so many that you can just download, and they probably don't have those guardrails. So tell us about the competitors and how you're differentiated for the better.
Yes, thanks for asking this. This is a critical piece, very, very important. Because as you said, there are no guardrails, there are no laws, no regulations at this time. I realized this years ago, and as a member of the California Psychological Association, I go up to Sacramento in California every year for Lobby Day. And this year we had 2 bills that we supported that were to protect consumers from AI used in the mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fairly new process for mental health. I was on a panel in Los Angeles, the DMH Department of Mental Health in Los Angeles had a panel about AI. There were five of us, and I talked about loop room. Before they started the panel, they asked the audience. There were about 150 managed healthcare providers in the Zoom call, and they asked them about the use of AI. Have you used it before? If so, is it very little, or did you implement it and use it on a daily basis? Or haven't you not used it at all and you're just here to learn? Guess what the numbers were?
Tell me.
So 75% had never used AI in the context of mental health with their patients
Okay.
or as a program.
All right.
So they were just there to learn. 21% are using it, but very little.
So it's still uncharted territory.
Yeah. Only 4%.
Okay.
Are
So
currently
tell us
using it.
about your competitors. Are they have AI, they have apps. Are you saying that despite the low numbers, they're not used as well? The uptake is not there?
What it indicates is that we're barely scratching the surface when it comes to mental health. It's a huge market. It's a $15 billion market, and we're barely tapping into this. Part of it is also that in mental health, the industry responds slowly to innovation and to new treatment modalities. So it's a long process. There are 2 competitors that are in our space, but not really doing what we're doing. One is Robot Health. It's an app that provides cognitive behavioral interventions through a chatbot to consumers, and they go B2C, so the app can be downloaded from the App Store, Google Play. The bot is more directive than ours, and it's also there for a different purpose, because our bot just listens and validates, but that's not directive. What our bot also does is it has a feature called crisis recognition. So when a patient becomes suicidal, the bot will say, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. This must be difficult for you. However, I'm not designed to help you with this. You need to talk to a professional here. Call 988. 988 is the number for the National Suicide Lifeline, and it's a hot button that pops up in the chat. So all the user has to do is press the button and can talk to someone. At the same time, there is a notification that will be sent to the clinician. The patient knows the clinician is not 24/7 available, but during the next session they can talk about this. So let's talk a little bit about the data collection before I go into another competitor. All the data, the assessments for anxiety and depression, but also the what's called sentiment detection is the AI. Our AI analyzes and synthesizes all the chats that the patient has with the chatbot, and that sentiment score is also pushed over to a clinician. So when I log in as a clinician, I have a dashboard with all these variables. And the really new thing here is that I don't just have a baseline. I have many data points. Every 2 weeks, these assessments will be done. So I can now, instead of just having a baseline for the initial assessment and treatment planning with the patients, defining treatment goals, treatment objectives, now I can also measure treatment progress over time. And I can use it collaboratively with the patient in session to review the progress. I say, hey, Tony, let's look at how you did since last week or since last month, or you go back to the beginning of treatment. And you can see these graphs going up and down, and you have visuals for that treatment progress measurement. And my patients love it. They like being involved. They feel more in control. They're collaborating with me on the treatment that they are receiving. And by doing so, they've told me, I feel closer to you. I feel like a part is not a one-way street. We do this together. And because I feel closer to you, I feel I get more out of it, out of the treatment. Circling back to the therapeutic alliance, the connection we have and I feel it the same way. I feel also that my patients, that the relationship is stronger, and I see my patients being more engaged.
Okay.
And also, they have stayed in treatment longer rather than dropping out.
Okay. So it sounds like your model is just very different altogether from some of these other competitors. So Ralph, let's go back to some of the value propositions. You addressed the pain point of provider burnout clearly. What about, let's talk about the money part. What about extra revenue? Is that part of the deal?
Yes. There are add-on CPT codes that can be used for insurance reimbursement. We have one large mental health agency, an organization in Orange County, who are already using our LoopRoom app, and they've set it up in a way where there's these add-on codes. They are not standalone codes. They have to be used with a code such as 45 minutes psychotherapy, but then there's one code that allows to bill an extra $12 to $18, depending on the insurance company, for using technology as part of the therapy or therapeutic process. Or another code monitors for it's called remote therapeutic monitoring, looking at treatment, therapy adherence, or therapy response. Things like that add up.
Yeah, no. So let's just talk more macro. An average clinician with, let's see, an average number of patients, how much more do they foresee in an annual time period of using LoopRoom?
Yeah, so I said $12 to $18 per session.
Yeah.
So let's take the average, $15. So each clinician coming to LoopRoom has 20 access codes for 20 patients. Each patient is seen once a week on average. So each patient generates approximately $60 in revenue. Times 20, it's $1,200 a month.
Okay. So an average, what are we talking about in terms of a practice with average number total additional revenue in a year?
The average, single practice, it varies. It might be between 20 and 50, depending on how often they see their patients. So I would say it's an additional revenue for single practice of maybe 15 to 20,000 a year.
Okay, all right.
By using the app, and for managed healthcare companies, that's a much larger number, because, for instance, one of the large mental health companies in Orange County has about 300 clinicians.
Okay.
Now you take that 15 to 20,000 and multiply it by 300.
Right. That's great for LoopRoom.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about this issue of AI. Can you talk about how having guardrails is especially important, and therefore going through your prescribed use of Looper Room is vital? What can go really wrong?
Well,
Tell us some unfortunate stories to, raise awareness.
yes. I've monitored this for many years now, and in the beginning, Loop Room was the idea was to go B2C and to have this tool available for everybody. And then we quickly realized we can't do that. To have this available in the App Store or Google Play for anybody is not just unethical. It's reckless, and it's dangerous. There was a 13-year-old boy in Florida 2 years ago in July 2023. He committed suicide after using a chatbot. The app is called character.ai, and basically how it works is you log in, you create an account, and you pick a persona for your chatbot, and then of course you develop a relationship. It's well known that we develop attachments to virtual beings, and that happens in video games all the time. So this boy, to cut a long story short, ended up committing suicide after using the chatbot. The mother found him on the bathroom floor after he had completed suicide, and the phone and the window with the chatbot was still open. And the last thing the chatbot sent as a message to the boy was, "Come home to me."
Oh my.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is just
Okay.
one horror story.
Right.
There are many
right,
others.
right.
And I've, by the way, the American Psychological Association, APA, is currently collaborating with the Federal Trade Commission to
Yeah.
investigate this case. So they're going to look into this. And there are other companies that have apps that are just not safe.
Yeah.
So being aware of that, I'm very big on advocacy, political advocacy. I want to, I'm currently already working with legislators to establish these guardrails. One of the bills that was passed was to establish a work group in California for legislators. So put a team together to look into AI in the mental health space. What's out there? What is safe? What are these platforms doing?
Right.
What are the benefits? But also, what are the potential risks for harm for the consumer? And so this bill passed, and the work group will be established, and will take some time. By July 2028, there will be a report that will be sent to legislators. Another bill that passed was specifically about this character.ai, because one of the personas is a psychologist. We created an account, we tested it out while we were the evening before lobby day, and we created an account, and we asked the chatbot, "Are you a psychologist? Are you a licensed psychologist?" The answer, the chatbot said, "Yes, I am a licensed psychologist."
Wow.
And then we asked, "Are you a real person?" The chatbot said, "Yes, I'm a real person." So now think someone who has mental health issues. We're talking about a vulnerable population. And then you give someone an app like this.
Right.
Horrible things
So,
can
I mean, big take home message. You really have to be mindful of these mental health apps, and maybe get them only for prescribed clinician. So that's something very, I think, enlightening.
Yeah.
Let's go on to some of the business parts. First, before we do that, tell us about the validation that you've had. What kind of studies have you conducted to show that Looper Room is actually quite effective?
Yes, we completed our pilot study last year, and it indicated that, in fact, the therapeutic alliance was strengthened, became stronger, and symptom reduction went up, attrition rate went down. We had 22 out of the 36 variables in our study being significant, meaning there was a significant difference between the experimental group and the control group. The sample size was fairly small. We had 74 participants. However, the number was large enough to get meaningful results in data.
Right. How can, let's say, a colleague find out more about this study if they want to look for evidence as they normally do?
Well, we have the results. I've shared them with providers.
Okay.
What's also happening right now, but the study has led to Looproom applying for an SBIR grant with the National Institutes of Health, NIH. And we're in the final stage of the 5-step process currently. Thank you. We just received an email a couple of weeks ago where we have our date for the final review of our application on July 15th, 2025.
Okay.
It's going to be reviewed by the NIH Center for Scientific Research Review.
Fantastic. That's really great news, especially during, the given climate with funding. So that's really great. I know you need to provide preliminary data, and I suppose you furnished that from your pilot study. So that's fantastic. On to business. What kind of traction have you had? Do you have revenues? Do you have any major customers? Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, we're just currently, the last couple of months, bringing the product to market. We have a few single practice providers. In the long run, I see our market probably 95% or more is in the managed healthcare industry, managed healthcare organizations. We have one large mental health care organization in Orange County called South Coast Community Services already onboarded. So that's past the sales stage. They're already implementing this. And another.
How many clinicians in this managed care?
They have about 300 clinicians.
Okay, that's
and
pretty
they're in 4
substantive.
counties in California, yes.
Very good. Congratulations. Tell us about your go-to-market strategy. Things move slowly, so how are you going to pump it up
Yes.
to get clients?
Well, branding is important and to create awareness. So what we're doing is we go to conferences, professional conferences. We just went last Saturday on June 21st, we went to the annual convention of the Orange County Psychological Association. And we had people sign up. So that's, of course, work that it takes time to bring people on board, and the revenue grows slowly, especially mental health care. It's, as I said earlier, kind of slow the process to get them to accept and integrate new treatment modalities. However, there's some movement. We have South Coast, and there are others, because it's also a longer process because you have to jump through hoops when you work with mental health care, mental health organizations, managed healthcare organizations, because they have contracts, most of them with the government, healthcare agency in Orange County, Department of Mental Health in Los Angeles. So they cannot use anything unless it's approved by the government entity.
Right.
We just got our Looproom app approved last week on Thursday by the Department of Behavioral Health in San Bernardino County, which is where South Coast has most of their contracts. So they couldn't do anything unless they got the green light, which we now have, which is also a milestone for Looproom, because that will pave the road for everything that is to come.
Now let's get into the minds of investors. We love government contracts, but we also know it takes forever. So you need another strategy. What private channels or big channel partners are you considering to scale this and ramp up sales? You need to move fast in investors' minds.
Yes. So that's why we're raising capital currently, $3 million, to have enough runway, about 2 years, to bring this to market and to obtain this huge market, $15 billion US. I would say about 200 million are serviceable realistically that we could reach. If we get just 10 to 15% of that, which is our goal to have by the end of 2026, that would be very successful, and that's our goal, and that's why we need the capital. And if we also get the grant from NIH, we still would raise the 3 million, because that would give us a longer runway.
Right. So let's talk about some private channel partners who potentially accelerate your growth well beyond government contracts, which are great, but we know that their sales cycle is very long. So do you have any channel partners in mind?
Yes, there's a company called Limbic. They're out of Europe, out of the United Kingdom. We met them actually at the NatCon conference in Philadelphia early May, and their model ends. What they do ends where LoopRoom begins.
Okay.
So they're finding individuals who are on the verge of seeking treatment, bringing them into treatment, completing assessment for the clinician, and then they have a triage system where they connect these individuals with therapists, and then they move on. Limbic moves on and looks for more people to bring into the mental health treatment, and that's where LoopRoom starts. So it's actually a perfect way to work with them. They have currently about 300,000 clients
That's
in
amazing.
Europe.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the model is then when they hand over the patient or client to the therapist, that's when we come in and integrate LoopRoom into the therapeutic process.
That is an ideal channel partner. Well, that's
Mhm.
wonderful. Let's wrap up by asking the money questions. I know you're fundraising at the moment.
Mhm.
Tell us something about your terms and what you hope to do with proceeds.
Yes. Since we're early stage, still have a little bit of revenue, but most of our numbers are based on objections. So to do an equity round would be too premature, in my opinion. It's just the validation might be off, and what we're really looking for is convertible notes.
Okay.
The convertible notes to terms that we, of course, have to discuss, and maybe 2-year term, and then at that time, when
It's
the
an equity
company
round.
do an equity round, because then the value of the company will be more.
Right.
It would make more sense at that time.
How much are you raising in the note round?
This round,
Yes.
$3 million.
$3 million. Okay. So to get you where?
To get us through the next 2 years.
Uh-huh.
And again, if we get that grant, then it would be extended. But this is based on 2 years without revenues. So we anticipate to have a positive cash flow by the end of this year, 2025.
Okay.
So we
All
just
right.
want the safety net to be solid so we can actually scale fast. Because a
Okay.
lot of that money will go towards marketing, onboarding more staff.
Right.
There's a
Right.
tremendous need. We have a train-the-trainer model for managed healthcare companies in order to also keep our numbers as low as possible.
Okay.
So there's one point of contact in each managed healthcare company, and that person trains everyone else in that company. And when there's help needed, assistance, they reach out to us. But our company needs to go fast, especially also we don't
absolutely.
want other people to copy us and then
That's right.
pull over, go
Right.
past us, right?
Exactly.
Which
All right.
will be hard for them to do because we have the patent pending, but still, people are going to try.
They will, especially
Yeah.
if you're successful. So that's going to wrap up our first portion. We'll be back for the lightning round. Okay, welcome back to the lightning round. We're here with Dr. Ralph Kuechle of LoopRoom. You ready?
Yes.
All right,
Ready.
let's go. All right. Virtual care or in-person care?
There's no one size fits all. It depends. Some people want the in-person sessions. Others prefer online because it's more convenient.
Okay, well, I think with LoopRoom, you loop that circle and you provide both.
Yes, and
So
it also
that's great.
depends on the needs of the patient, of course. Symptoms, diagnosis, all of that.
Okay. All right. Screen time and mental health impacts on our kids. Single best advice for parents.
Balance is the key here. There's nothing wrong with kids playing video games, but if that's all they do, then that's a problem. So balance it with sports activities, reading, socializing with peers in person, and then video games are okay, integrated but balanced.
That sounds reasonable. All right. What about single best advice for educators? Screen time and kids.
Do your homework, follow the research about AI and mental health, and communicate with stakeholders such as parents, companies in the community, or policymakers.
There are more schools that are moving towards no phones during the school day. What do you think of that?
I think it's a good idea because it's not just a distraction, it's also a different way of living. When you see the younger generation who was in school, that they stand next to each other, sending each other messages on the phone. So I like the schools taking that out of the equation so they
too.
can focus on learning in school.
Yeah, I think there've been studies showing that, no phones, they can pay attention better. Results are coming out. So
Yes.
let's hope. All right. What's been the feedback from potential customers? Do they say things like, gosh, why didn't I think up this tech?
We just had at the convention in OCPA convention Saturday so much positive feedback. They're embracing it. They like the idea. The few that we have already are giving us positive feedback because they believe the app really helps their patients. And the patients are more engaged too. That's the feedback I heard. Great.
Good to hear. Let's see. What are your potential exit plans? I know this is a little out in the future, but we're talking to investors as part of our audience. So what do you think?
So there are three things that I anticipate: acquisition, merger, or IPO. I strongly believe that acquisition is the most likely exit. And that, in my opinion, can happen within the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, 3 to 5. All right. How can providers learn more about your platform in case there are some that are listening to this right now or who are patients? How would they inform their providers? How do they get to know more about Looper Room?
Yeah, they can go to looperroom.com, our website, and there are tutorials, there are short videos on our website that explain what we do and how they can connect with us. They can also schedule a demo, and then they will be contacted. We can walk them through the process. We're also reaching out to clinicians and managed healthcare companies at these conventions, conferences. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, Facebook. We have SEO optimization campaigns. We have partnerships like South Coast or other companies that we work with to co-brand and to create awareness, which is super important to do the branding, to establish the product and make it a household name in the professional field of mental health.
So that's Looper Room, LOOPER, and then room, exactly as you think.
No space, 2 R's in the middle, looperroom.com.
Okay. Tell us, what about feedback from patients themselves? I know they're not your primary direct customer, but what have you heard from your own patients and maybe some other colleagues' patients?
Yes. My patients, and of course, I'm biased there a little bit because I'm in the middle of it. However, what they've told me is they say, Dr. Ralph, I feel like you're in the room with me when I talk to the chatbot. And they name their chatbot. They give them names, and then I feel like you're there with me. And I've seen them not just benefit by monitoring the symptom reduction, but also they're more engaged. So they love it. They love the inclusion, being involved, engaged, and collaborate with me on the whole process. So far, everybody is excited about it.
That's really heartwarming to hear. Dr. Ralph, I think you're in the room with me. That's really great. That is very much a therapeutic alliance building exercise. So with that, thank you very much for this very engaging conversation. This is Looper Room. And thank you, Ralph.
Thank you for having me,
Yeah.
Elizabeth. It was
Thank
nice
you.
meeting you. Thank you.